The sky over Ardent Prime was never still. Even on calm days, thin clouds twisted with strange colors, as if the planet itself breathed slowly. The humans had learned to live with its moods. They built their homes on high cliffs and strong stone, planting gardens on terraces that caught sunlight. For years, life had been quiet. Children ran through the streets, farmers tilled the fields, and every evening the colony gathered near the central tower to watch the sun fall behind the mountains. Mara stood on the edge of the cliff, her eyes following the horizon. The wind tugged at her cloak, cold and sharp, but she barely noticed. Something in the air felt different. It was not the wind. It was the quiet before something terrible. Her thoughts were interrupted by the distant hum of engines. At first, she thought it was a normal freight ship returning from the outer settlements. But the hum grew louder, deeper, and sharper. The color of the sky changed, shadows spreading like dark ink over the cliffs. Then the shapes appeared. Ships. Hundreds of them. Dark, metallic, moving faster than any human craft. They descended from the sky in perfect formation. Mara's heart beat fast, but her voice remained steady when she shouted to the people below. Everyone inside. Get to shelter. Now. Panic spread like wildfire. Children screamed, mothers called to fathers, and the streets emptied as humans ran toward the stone buildings, the tunnels, and the caves that had been carved for emergencies. Mara did not run. She stayed on the cliff, watching the alien fleet. The ships were not like anything humans had seen before. They had no visible wings, no recognizable engines. Only sharp edges and dark lights that glowed like eyes. From the highest cliff, Mara could see the first attack. A beam of blue energy shot from the lead ship, cutting through the fields like a lightning strike. Trees burst into flames, and the sound of shattering stone echoed through the valley. Humans on the ground ducked and ran, dodging falling debris. The sky filled with smoke and fire. Mara turned to the soldiers who had gathered near the cliff. They were few in number, armed with basic rifles and homemade shields. Against the alien ships, their weapons were almost useless. Still, they waited, ready to defend the colony as best they could. Hold your positions, Mara said. We cannot stop them here, but we can protect the people. Don't give up. The aliens' first wave descended quickly. Soldiers fired, but most of their bullets bounced harmlessly off the ship's metallic hulls. The humans scattered, hiding behind walls, rocks, and trenches. Mara ran toward a group of children huddled near a collapsed market stall. She took their hands, speaking quietly to calm their fear. You will be safe, she promised. Follow me, stay low, and trust me. As she led them toward the underground tunnels, the ground shook beneath her feet. Buildings crumbled, sending dust and smoke into the sky. The screams of the wounded filled the air. Mara kept moving, ignoring the chaos around her. She knew that if she stopped, even for a moment, lives could be lost. The tunnels were dark, cold, and damp, but they were safe. Families huddled together, holding hands, trying to block out the sounds of destruction above. Mara knelt down in the middle of the group. We will get through this, she said. Humans are strong. We survive when others think we cannot. Stay close, and remember that. For a moment, silence fell. The only sound was the wind whistling through the cracks in the stone. Then the first survivors came running, telling stories of neighbors who had fallen, of soldiers who had tried to fight back. Each tale was more terrifying than the last, but Mara listened carefully. Every detail could help them survive the next attack. Hours passed. The humans in the tunnels could hear the sounds above, explosions, the hiss of alien energy, and the cries of those left behind. No one dared to sleep. Mara walked among the people, offering water, comfort, and hope. Her calmness became a shield, protecting the human spirits even when their bodies were trapped in fear. By evening, the first wave of alien ships retreated, leaving smoke and ash behind. The humans emerged from the tunnels to see their colony in ruins. Homes were destroyed, fields burned, and many lives lost. Mara's heart ached for every person missing, but she did not allow despair to take her mind. "We will rebuild," she said, her voice carrying over the broken streets. "We have survived worse than this. We will survive again." Her words reached the soldiers, too. They formed small groups, searching for survivors and protecting those who remained. Mara noticed a small team trying to lift a fallen beam from a trapped family. Without hesitation, she ran to help. Together, humans lifted the heavy stone with strength and skill born from necessity. When the trapped family was free, they cried and held Mara's hands, gratitude shining through the pain. Night came, but there was no peace. Fires burned in the distance, and the stars were hidden by smoke. Mara climbed to the cliff again, looking at the darkened sky. She thought about the alien ships, the lives lost, and the battles yet to come. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel fear not for herself, but for everyone she was responsible for. Then she remembered what made humans different. Humans could feel, humans could hope, and humans could fight not just with weapons, but with courage. Mara drew in a deep breath, feeling the wind on her face. The colony may have been shattered, but its spirit was not. "We will rise from the ashes," she whispered. "We will not break. We will survive." And in that moment, as the fires burned and the aliens watched from above, Mara knew that the human story was just beginning. They were small in number and wounded, but inside each heart was a flame the alien invaders could not understand. It was quiet, steady, and unyielding. The night stretched on, long and difficult, but Mara kept watch. Every shadow, every sound, every flicker of movement was noted. She would not let her people fall again. And even as she felt the sorrow of the lost, she also felt a spark of hope that refused to die. The shattered sky above Ardent Prime was only the beginning of the story. The humans left the ruins of the colony behind at dawn. Smoke rose from broken buildings, black and thick against the pale sky. Mara led the survivors, her steps steady, her eyes scanning the horizon. Every sound mattered, the distant hum of alien ships, the soft rustle of wind over dry grass, the cries of animals startled by the destruction. The group was small, fewer than 50 people, but they carried everything they could save. Children held tightly to parents, farmers carried what food they could, and soldiers kept watch at the edges of the line. The march was slow, careful. Every step could bring danger, but Mara knew that standing still was even worse. "Keep close," Mara said quietly. "Do not leave anyone behind. If we stay together, we can survive." The survivors obeyed without question. Humans had learned long ago that survival depended on trust and teamwork. Even in fear, they moved as one. As the group walked, Mara noticed signs of the alien presence. Trees were scorched, rocks were split, and deep marks cut through the ground as if massive claws had passed. The aliens had been thorough. They wanted to destroy, not just conquer. Mara felt a chill, but she held her courage like a shield. Fear was dangerous, but despair would be fatal. The first encounter came by midday. A small alien scout, sleek and black, appeared on a ridge ahead of the group. Its limbs moved with unnatural speed, and its eyes glowed red. The humans froze. The scout had not seen them yet, but it would soon. Mara raised her hand and signaled to the soldiers. "Wait," she whispered. "Do not attack unless we have to. Watch and learn." The scout paused and scanned the area. It hissed softly, an alien sound that sent shivers down the humans' spines. Then it turned, as if confused by something invisible, and moved on. "Why did it leave?" a soldier asked. Mara shook her head. "It does not understand us. It cannot read what humans feel. That is our strength. Remember that." The group continued, moving slowly and silently. Mara noticed small things that the aliens could not predict. A twig snapped underfoot, and a human instinctively paused. A child fell behind, and a soldier silently guided her forward without raising a voice. These moments of quiet attention were not just survival, they were proof that humans could work together without spoken orders, a language of understanding built over generations. As the day passed, the group crossed plains and shallow rivers. They found remnants of older human settlements, abandoned homes, broken tools, empty granaries. Mara encouraged the survivors to take what they could. Every small advantage counted. Food, water, and shelter were more precious now than ever. By late afternoon, the group reached a ridge overlooking a small valley. From there, they could see movement below, alien patrols moving in patterns, scanning the land with glowing red sensors. Mara lowered herself to the ground and studied the scene. "They will not leave this area," she said. "We cannot fight them directly. But we can move carefully. Watch their patterns. Use the shadows. Stay silent." The survivors listened. They had learned from the first attack that loud sounds or sudden movements could be deadly. Humans had lost many friends, but those who remained had gained experience. Each step forward was careful, deliberate. Night fell while the group moved along the edges of the valley. Mara lit small fires in hidden spots, enough to keep the group warm but not enough for the aliens to see. The humans huddled together, sharing stories quietly to keep spirits alive. The night was long and cold, but Mara's presence kept fear from taking hold completely. Suddenly, a sound shattered the quiet. A patrol had discovered them. The aliens moved quickly, their red eyes scanning the darkness. Mara knew that confrontation was dangerous, but running blindly would be worse. She made a decision. "Spread out," she ordered. "Move to the rocks and shadows. Do not stop. Trust each other." The humans scattered silently. Soldiers blocked narrow paths, while children and parents slipped into hidden crevices. Mara stayed near the center, keeping watch. The aliens advanced, hissing and clicking, but they could not anticipate every human movement. Mara noticed one soldier guiding a child over a rock, another throwing a small stone to distract a patrol. The humans moved as if invisible. The aliens searched carefully, but every time they approached, the humans had already vanished from sight. Mara smiled briefly. The humans' ability to think quickly, to improvise, was already turning the tide in small ways. By dawn, the patrol had moved on. The humans regrouped on the other side of the valley, exhausted but safe. Mara counted everyone. No one was missing. Relief washed over the group. "You see," Mara said. "We are small, but we are clever. They cannot predict every move we make. That is our advantage. That is why we survive." The survivors nodded. Even the soldiers, hardened by the first attack, felt a spark of hope. Humans could adapt. Humans could endure. And humans could fight in ways the aliens could not understand. For the next few days, the group continued their march. They hunted for food, gathered water, and avoided alien patrols. Mara taught the survivors to move quietly, to watch for signs of danger, and to trust instincts. Each human contributed, no matter how small the task. During a quiet evening by a small stream, Mara watched the children play. They laughed softly, trying to forget the horrors above the cliffs. She realized that even in fear, humans found ways to live, to hope, and to continue. That hope was more powerful than any weapon the aliens had brought. Mara also noticed the bonds forming among the survivors. Soldiers helped farmers, children followed guides, and families protected each other. Humans could communicate without words, reading gestures, expressions, and small signals. The aliens, no matter how advanced, could not understand this silent language. "This is why we survive," Mara said to herself. We fight, we think, and we care. We do not rely only on strength, but on our minds, our hearts, and our courage. As the sun rose on the seventh day, the humans reached the edge of a forest that had been untouched by alien destruction. Mara felt a surge of hope. Here, they could rest, hide, and plan. The march had been long and dangerous, but it had also shown something important: humans were not just survivors. They were clever, resourceful, and unbroken. Mara looked at her people. Though tired, dirty, and wounded, they carried the fire of life inside them. She knew the battles ahead would be harder, the losses greater, but she also knew that humans had something the aliens could never destroy. "We will keep moving," she said softly. "We will survive. And one day, we will rise stronger than before." The survivors nodded, and together, they entered the forest. The trees surrounded them like silent guardians, and for the first time in days, they felt a sense of safety. Mara stayed at the rear, watching the path behind them. The aliens had not followed, but the humans would not be careless. This was only the beginning of their journey. The silent march had taught them patience, courage, and unity. Mara knew that the next challenge would come, but she also knew that humans could face it, not because they were the strongest, but because they never gave up. The forest stretched ahead, dark and quiet, but filled with possibility. Mara led the way, her heart steady. The humans had survived another day, and in their survival, they discovered the quiet power that made them truly different. The forest was quiet. The tall trees swayed gently in the wind, their leaves whispering secrets to each other. For the humans, it was a rare moment of peace. Mara led the survivors along narrow paths, the ground soft with moss and fallen leaves. The air smelled of damp earth and pine, a welcome change from the smoke and ash of their destroyed colony. Yet, the peace was uneasy. Every shadow seemed alive, every rustle a possible threat. The aliens were still out there, and Mara knew they could appear at any moment. She walked at the front of the group, her eyes sharp and alert, while the soldiers spread out to watch the edges of the path. "We will stay in the forest for a few days," Mara said. "We need rest and supplies. But do not let your guard down. Stay close, stay quiet, and stay ready." The humans nodded. Children clung to parents, farmers carried water and small rations, and the soldiers scanned the terrain continuously. Despite the tension, a sense of calm settled among them. They were not in immediate danger, and that small relief was precious. On the second day, Mara decided it was time to honor the fallen. She gathered the survivors near a small clearing where sunlight streamed through the branches. The air was warm and still. She instructed them to bring small stones, pieces of wood, or anything that could mark the memory of those lost in the colony. "Today, we remember," Mara said softly. "We remember the people who fought with us, who protected us, and who are no longer here. We honor them not with anger, but with silence." One by one, the humans placed stones in a small circle. A soldier laid down a piece of cloth that had belonged to a friend. A child dropped a flower, tears running down her cheeks. Mara knelt and placed a small wooden carving she had made, a symbol of protection. The group stood in silence. No words were needed. Each human felt the presence of those they had lost. It was a quiet strength, one that could not be broken by fear or by fire. While the humans mourned, Mara noticed movement near the edge of the clearing. Small shapes glided between the trees, observing them. Alien scouts. They had come to study the humans, but something made them hesitate. They did not approach directly. They watched the humans honor the fallen, the way they moved, and the way they connected without speaking. Mara sensed their presence, but she did not panic. Instead, she whispered to the survivors. "Do not be afraid. Let them watch. They do not understand us. They cannot read our hearts. This is our strength." The scouts lingered for a while and then moved away. Mara realized something important. Humans had a way of showing emotion that the aliens could not predict. Grief, respect, and remembrance were not weaknesses. They were a part of human power, a force that inspired courage and protected the living. After the ceremony, the group set about finding food. They hunted small animals, gathered berries, and collected clean water from a stream that curved through the forest. Mara encouraged the children to help in small ways, showing them that everyone had a role to play in survival. During the afternoon, Mara led a small team deeper into the forest to scout for safer paths and hidden shelters. They moved silently, communicating through hand signals and subtle gestures. Mara watched how humans worked together, anticipating each other's needs without speaking. It was a skill born from generations of cooperation and care, something the aliens could never replicate. They found an abandoned cave with soft ground and a small spring. Mara inspected it carefully. The entrance was narrow, easy to defend, and the spring would provide clean water. "This will be our temporary home," Mara said. "We will rest here, plan our next moves, and regain our strength." When they returned, Mara shared the news. The survivors cheered quietly. Even in small ways, humans celebrated life. Mara smiled at the sight. Hope could survive even in the shadow of destruction. That night, the humans sat around a small fire inside the cave. Mara told stories of past battles and survival, stories of courage that inspired them. Children listened wide-eyed, absorbing lessons of bravery and perseverance. Soldiers shared practical advice about movement, traps, and observation. Every story, every shared word, strengthened the bond between them. Suddenly, a child noticed a glimmer of light outside the cave. Mara moved quietly to the entrance and peered out. A small alien scout was approaching, its red eyes scanning the area. Mara signaled to the soldiers, who prepared quietly. The alien stopped at the edge of the clearing. It did not move forward. Mara realized it was watching, trying to understand, but it could not. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and full of emotion. The alien hissed softly and then turned away, disappearing into the forest. Mara returned to the group. "See what I mean," she said. "They study us, but they cannot read our hearts. Our courage, our grief, our care for each other, these things make us human. This is why we survive." The survivors nodded, understanding the lesson. They were small and outnumbered, but their strength was different. It was quiet, deep, and unstoppable. In the following days, the humans explored the forest carefully. They mapped hidden paths, marked safe places, and practiced moving silently. Mara taught them to use nature itself as a shield. Shadows, rocks, and trees became tools. They set small traps, not to harm unnecessarily, but to protect themselves. One afternoon, Mara found a fallen tree with carvings on its bark. The symbols were old, left by humans who had lived in the forest centuries ago. Mara traced the markings with her fingers. It was a reminder that humans had survived before, and they could survive again. She called the survivors to the tree. "Our ancestors faced hardships too," she said. "They survived because they worked together, because they cared for each other, and because they never gave up. We will do the same. We will honor the past and protect the future." The humans spent the night beneath the stars, listening to the wind in the trees. The forest seemed alive, protective, and safe. For the first time in days, the survivors felt a sense of peace that was deeper than fear. They were small, but they were clever. They were wounded, but they were unbroken. Mara watched the children sleep, imagining the lives that might come after this war. She thought about the fallen, the ones who had given everything, and she promised herself that their memory would guide every step forward. At dawn, Mara gathered the survivors once more. "We move again," she said. "The aliens will not stop, but neither will we. Every step, every choice, every act of care and courage makes us stronger." We honor the fallen by surviving and protecting each other. The humans packed their small belongings and prepared to leave the forest. The silent march had taught them patience, observation, and unity. They had learned that grief could be a strength and remembrance a weapon. The aliens could destroy buildings and fire weapons, but they could not destroy the spirit of humans. As the group stepped into the morning light, Mara looked back at the clearing. Stones, flowers, and wooden carvings marked the memory of those lost. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the echoes of silence and courage. Humans moved forward, small and vulnerable, yet filled with determination. Mara led them on, knowing the journey ahead would be long and dangerous. But she also knew the truth: humans had a power that no alien could predict or destroy. It was not in their weapons, ships, or numbers. It was in their hearts, their minds, and their unwavering will to survive. The forest faded behind them, but its lessons stayed. Mara felt hope rising, quiet but strong, like the first light of dawn. Humans had survived the first battles, and they would survive the next. The story of their resilience had only begun. The humans had stayed in the forest for several days. They had rested, eaten, and learned to move quietly without being seen. Mara knew they could not stay there forever. The aliens would return, and they needed a place to fight if necessary. She had heard stories of an old rebel base in the mountains, a hidden place humans had used long ago to plan and survive. "We moved to the mountains," Mara announced to the survivors. "It is far, and the journey will be hard. But it will give us a chance to rest, train, and prepare for what comes next." The humans nodded. They were tired, but they had grown stronger. Every challenge they faced had taught them something new. Every day, they learned to trust each other more. The march began early the next morning. Mara led the group, moving carefully along narrow paths between trees and rocks. Soldiers walked at the edges, scanning for danger. Children and farmers followed closely behind. Every step was cautious, every sound measured. As they reached the foothills, the first alien patrol appeared. Mara stopped immediately. The scouts were fast and numerous, moving through the rocks with precision. Mara raised her hand, signaling the humans to hide. Soldiers and adults slipped behind boulders and bushes. Children crouched low, holding onto their parents. The patrol moved past without noticing them. Mara breathed a quiet sigh of relief. "Stay ready," she whispered. "They will not give up easily." The humans continued up the mountains. The paths were steep, and the air grew thin, but they pressed on. Mara encouraged them with quiet words of hope. "Each step brings us closer to safety," she said. "Do not give up. We survive because we endure." By midday, they reached a ridge overlooking a wide valley. Smoke still rose from the ruins of the colony below. Mara paused to rest. She looked at her people and felt pride. They had survived attacks, fear, and hunger. They were tired, but they were not broken. That night, Mara organized the survivors into small groups. Soldiers trained quietly with makeshift weapons, practicing movements and defensive positions. Farmers and children learned to gather supplies and set small traps to warn of approaching enemies. Every human contributed in some way, building not just survival skills but confidence. The next day, Mara took a small group to scout the rebel base. It was hidden in a narrow canyon, surrounded by cliffs. The entrance was almost invisible from a distance. Mara checked every detail, ensuring it was safe. She returned to the survivors and led them there. "This is our new home for now," Mara said. "We will rest here, train, and prepare. The aliens will come again, but we will be ready." The base was old, but strong. Stone walls, hidden rooms, and narrow tunnels made it easy to defend. The survivors worked together to clean and repair it. They built small barricades, gathered food and water, and set lookout points. Mara watched as humans transformed fear into preparation, despair into determination. During the following days, the humans trained tirelessly. Mara taught them to fight using clever tactics rather than just strength. They practiced moving quietly, setting traps, and using the terrain to their advantage. Soldiers learned to communicate with subtle signals, farmers learned to defend themselves, and even children practiced basic survival skills. One afternoon, while scouting, Mara noticed alien ships circling above the mountains. They were searching, trying to find the humans' new base. Mara returned quickly to warn everyone. "They are close," she said. "But they do not know what we are capable of. We will not hide forever. We will show them human strength in ways they cannot predict." Mara organized the survivors strategically. Soldiers were placed at high points with clear views. Traps were set along the narrow paths leading to the base. Families and children were placed in the safest areas, protected by natural barriers. Mara herself stayed at the center, ready to guide and direct the defense. The alien patrol descended that night. They were fast, efficient, and armed with weapons far stronger than the humans' rifles. But Mara's preparations gave them an advantage. The trap slowed the patrol, causing confusion. Soldiers ambushed from hidden positions, striking quickly and retreating. The humans' movement was unpredictable, precise, and clever. The aliens hissed in frustration. Their numbers were greater, but the humans were using the environment in ways they could not anticipate. Mara led small teams to flank the patrol, guiding each movement with calm confidence. Every human contributed, and their unity made them stronger than the aliens expected. By dawn, the patrol was driven back. The humans had not only survived but had also inflicted significant damage. Mara gathered her people. "You see," she said. "They are strong, but they cannot predict human courage and cleverness. We fight not just with weapons but with our minds and hearts. This is why humans endure." The survivors cheered quietly. They were tired, but their spirits were higher than ever. They had faced a superior enemy and had won through planning, cooperation, and ingenuity. Over the next week, the humans continued to strengthen the base. Mara led scouting parties to find more resources. They learned to move silently through the mountains, set clever traps, and use the terrain to confuse the enemy. Each success, no matter how small, built confidence and unity. One evening, Mara gathered the survivors around a fire. The stars shone above, bright and steady. Mara spoke quietly. "We have survived attacks, crossed forests, and climbed mountains. We have honored our fallen, and we have prepared for what comes next. The aliens may be strong, but we are stronger in ways they cannot understand. We fight for life, for each other, and for the future. This is human strength." The survivors listened in silence. The firelight reflected in their eyes, showing determination and courage. Mara felt a deep pride in them. Humans had survived disasters before, and they would survive again. That night, the humans slept with guards posted at key points. Mara stayed awake for a while, watching the stars and thinking about the challenges ahead. The aliens would return, but she knew the humans were ready. They were clever, brave, and united. Their courage was quiet but unbreakable. In the early hours of the morning, Mara noticed a small group of scouts approaching from the valley below. The humans were ready. Soldiers moved to positions, traps were set, and Mara prepared to lead the defense. This was not just survival, it was a statement. Humans would not surrender. Humans would fight, even against overwhelming odds. The aliens arrived, and the humans met them with careful precision. Every movement was planned, every action calculated. The patrol was slowed, confused, and eventually forced to retreat. Mara watched as the survivors worked together flawlessly. Humans had taken their fear and turned it into strategy, their sorrow into determination. When the battle ended, Mara gathered her people once again. "We are small," she said, but we are clever. We are wounded, but we are not broken. The aliens cannot destroy our courage, our minds, or our hearts. This is why humans endure, and this is why we will survive." The survivors nodded. They had learned that human strength was not only in weapons or numbers but in resilience, ingenuity, and unity. Mara smiled. They had faced fire and fear and had proven that humans were different. They could endure, adapt, and fight in ways the aliens could not predict. The mountains were quiet again. Fires burned low, and the wind whispered through the cliffs. Mara looked at the survivors, knowing they were stronger than before. The aliens would come again, but the humans were ready. Every heart burned with courage, every mind worked together, and every step forward was a step of defiance. Humans had survived. Humans had fought. And humans would continue to rise, no matter how many battles lay ahead. The humans had settled into the mountain base for several weeks. Mara had transformed it into a small fortress of preparation. Barricades reinforced narrow paths, traps lined the edges of cliffs, and hidden observation points allowed soldiers to see any approach. Every human, from the youngest child to the oldest farmer, had a role. They were no longer a scattered group of survivors. They were a team. But Mara knew the aliens would not give up easily. Reports from scouts showed that a larger force was moving toward the mountains. The humans had prepared for patrols, but this force would be different. It would be led by a commander. The presence of such an enemy meant danger unlike anything they had faced before. Mara gathered the survivors in the main chamber of the base. "We have fought well," she began, her voice calm but firm. "We have survived because we think, we plan, and we protect each other. But soon, a stronger enemy will come. We must use everything we have learned. We must be clever, brave, and united." The humans listened in silence. Fear was there, but it was tempered by confidence. They had survived fires, attacks, and long marches. Now they understood the power of teamwork and strategy. Over the next days, Mara and her soldiers devised clever ways to confuse and slow the alien forces. They studied patterns of alien movement and anticipated where attacks might come. They set decoys along the mountain paths, creating illusions of larger groups of humans. Holographic images of past fighters, projections made from old equipment, flickered across ridges to give the impression that the humans were stronger than they really were. "It is not enough to survive," Mara explained to her people. "We must fight smart. They may have strength, but we have minds. We can outthink them. That is what makes us human." The humans practiced their plans repeatedly. Soldiers moved quietly between positions, children learned to signal silently if danger appeared, and farmers set simple but clever traps. Mara watched as humans adapted to every challenge. Their ingenuity was remarkable. Even the smallest members of the group learned to use the terrain to their advantage. One evening, Mara took a small group to scout the surrounding ridges. From a high point, she could see the distant horizon. A fleet of alien ships was moving closer. This was no ordinary patrol. Mara realized they were sending their commander to assess the humans personally. The stakes had risen. "We must be ready," Mara said to her team. "This is not just about survival. It is about showing them what humans can do. We fight not because we must, but because we will not be defeated." The humans returned to the base and shared the news. Soldiers reinforced traps, scouts doubled their observation, and children and farmers were reminded to stay hidden. Every detail mattered. Every preparation could make the difference between life and death. The night the alien commander arrived, the humans were ready. From the cliffs, Mara could see the ships descending. They moved with precision, but the humans were no longer afraid. Soldiers positioned themselves on high ground, traps were ready, and hidden paths allowed humans to strike and disappear before the aliens could respond. The commander's ship landed near a narrow canyon entrance. Mara studied its movements carefully. Unlike previous patrols, this commander seemed cautious, calculating. Mara realized that intelligence could be matched with intelligence. The humans would not fight blindly. They would use everything they had learned. Mara signaled a small team to activate the decoys. Holographic images of armed humans flickered across ridges and ledges. Fires were lit in hidden locations, giving the impression of a larger force. The aliens paused, unsure of the true strength of the humans. Mara's heart beat steadily. The humans' cleverness had created uncertainty among the enemy. The commander sent small groups to investigate. Each group was met with silent traps, clever obstacles, and rapid strikes from hidden soldiers. The aliens were confused. They could not predict human actions. Mara guided each move, using observation, planning, and intuition. Every successful maneuver strengthened the humans' confidence. Amid the chaos, Mara remembered the fallen. Every move she made honored those who had given their lives for the survival of the group. She imagined their courage as a guiding light, showing her what humans were capable of. Even in death, they inspired action and strategy. By dawn, the alien commander retreated temporarily. The humans had not destroyed the enemy completely, but they had demonstrated a strength far greater than expected. Mara gathered the survivors. "You have done well," she said. "You fought smart, together, and with courage. The aliens may be strong, but they cannot break what is inside us. They cannot predict our minds or our hearts. This is why humans endure." The survivors cheered softly. They were exhausted, but their spirits were high. They had learned that even against overwhelming odds, cleverness and unity could overcome brute force. Mara smiled. Humans had discovered something deeper than strength. They had discovered strategy, creativity, and resilience. In the following days, the humans repaired the base and reinforced traps. Mara led training sessions, teaching advanced strategies that combined stealth, observation, and clever attacks. The survivors became skilled in moving quietly, reading the terrain, and acting as one coordinated force. Every human knew that their strength was not just physical but mental and emotional as well. One morning, Mara found a small memorial hidden in a corner of the base. It was made by one of the children, a simple arrangement of stones and twigs to remember the fallen. Mara knelt beside it, touching the stones gently. She whispered the names of those lost, promising that their memory would guide every action and every step forward. The humans understood that remembrance was not weakness. It was power. The fallen had given everything, and their courage lived on in those who remained. Every action, every strategy, every silent maneuver was a tribute to those who had gone before. By the end of the week, the humans had strengthened the base beyond simple defense. Mara's leadership had transformed them into a disciplined and clever group. They had traps, decoys, observation posts, and advanced knowledge of the surrounding mountains. Even the children played a small role in communication and alerting the group to danger. Every member contributed, showing the power of unity and human ingenuity. Mara looked at her people one evening as the sun set behind the cliffs. Fires burned low, shadows stretched across the walls, and the wind whispered through the mountains. She felt pride and hope. Humans were not the strongest in numbers, but they had something the aliens could not understand: courage, intelligence, and the power to work together. "The aliens may return," Mara said softly to the group. "They may come with more ships and weapons, but we are ready. We have learned, we have adapted, and we have remembered. Human strength is not only in fighting but in thinking, caring, and surviving together. That is why we endure." The humans listened, their eyes bright with understanding. They were small, but their hearts were large. They were wounded, but their spirit was unbroken. Mara knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, humans could face them with cleverness and courage. The night was quiet, but Mara stayed awake, thinking of the battles yet to come. The aliens would test them again, but humans had proven something important: strategy, preparation, and unity could turn the tide against any enemy. The echoes of the fallen guided every action, every plan, and every step. Humans had survived before, and they would survive again. The story of their resilience was growing stronger with each day, a quiet but powerful force that no alien could destroy. The sun rose slowly over the mountains, casting long shadows across the cliffs. Mara stood at the edge of the ridge, looking down at the narrow valley below. The alien ships were coming again, this time in greater numbers. Their movements were precise, and their engines hummed with power. Mara knew this would be the hardest battle yet. She turned to the survivors. Soldiers readied their weapons, children and families moved to hidden positions, and farmers checked their traps one last time. Every human was tense but determined. They had survived so much already, and they were ready to defend their home. "This is it," Mara said. "We fight not just to survive, but to show that humans cannot be broken. Stay calm, follow your training, and trust each other. We have everything we need to win." The humans nodded. Fear was there, but it was quiet, replaced by focus and courage. They had learned from every attack, every obstacle, and every loss. They knew the enemy could be defeated with careful planning, courage, and unity. The aliens advanced through the valley, their patrols scanning for movement. Mara signaled the soldiers to activate the first set of traps. Logs tipped over, rocks rolled down narrow paths, and hidden pits slowed the alien forces. Confusion spread among the invaders as humans attacked from hidden positions, striking quickly and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Mara moved along the ridge, guiding small groups. Soldiers ambushed from above, farmers threw stones and small projectiles, and even children helped by alerting the group to approaching enemies. Every action was coordinated, every movement precise. The humans had learned to fight as one, thinking ahead and using their environment to their advantage. The alien commander arrived, moving ahead of the main force. Mara watched carefully. The commander was calculating, studying the humans' movements, and adjusting strategies. Mara smiled slightly. The commander could anticipate weapons, but humans had learned to anticipate each other. This was a battle of minds as much as strength. Mara signaled a small team to use the holographic decoys. Shadows of humans appeared along the cliffs, and flickering lights gave the impression of a larger force. The commander paused, unsure which targets were real. Mara's plan worked perfectly. The aliens hesitated, allowing humans to attack with precision. The battle intensified. Alien ships hovered above, firing beams at the cliffs, but the humans had reinforced positions and cleverly hidden pathways. Soldiers countered by moving silently along the rocks, striking quickly and retreating. Mara directed every move with calm confidence, turning fear into strategy. Even in the chaos, Mara remembered the fallen. Every action honored those who had given their lives for the group. Their memory guided every decision. Humans fought not only for survival but to protect the legacy of those who had fallen. By midday, the valley was filled with confusion and noise. Alien forces tried to regroup, but humans had created a maze of traps and ambushes. Mara moved among the soldiers, encouraging, guiding, and correcting. Every human acted with purpose, each movement part of a larger plan. The commander grew frustrated, ordering his forces to split and attack from multiple directions. Mara anticipated this and had prepared small teams to block each path. Humans moved with speed and intelligence, striking the aliens where they were weakest and using every advantage the terrain provided. Families watched safely from hidden caves while soldiers defended the paths. Children helped by signaling with small lights and sounds, warning the groups of approaching danger. Mara saw the courage in their eyes and felt pride. Humans were small in number, but their determination and ingenuity were unmatched. As the sun began to set, the battle reached its peak. Mara led a small group to flank the commander. Using narrow passes and hidden ledges, they struck quickly and forced the commander back. The alien forces were confused and exhausted, unable to predict human movements. Mara realized the battle could be won if the humans remained focused. The survivors followed her lead. Every trap worked perfectly, every ambush hit with precision, and every signal moved the group as one. Mara watched the aliens retreat slowly, their forces broken and disorganized. Humans had used not strength alone, but strategy, courage, and unity to overcome overwhelming odds. When the battle ended, the humans gathered at the cliff edge. Mara counted her people. No one was missing. Every human who had survived the march, the forest, and the mountain journey had fought together and endured. Mara smiled quietly, pride swelling in her chest. "You have done the impossible," Mara said. "You have fought not because you were the strongest, but because you were clever, brave, and united. The aliens cannot predict our minds or our hearts. This is why humans survive." The survivors cheered softly. Exhaustion was written on their faces, but their spirits shone brighter than ever. They had faced a superior enemy, and they had won through intelligence, preparation, and courage. Every human knew that unity and determination were stronger than any weapon. Over the next days, Mara led the survivors in reinforcing the base and gathering resources. They repaired damaged areas, rebuilt barricades, and strengthened hidden paths. Every human contributed. Soldiers trained, farmers gathered food, children learned simple survival skills, and Mara guided them all. During a quiet evening, Mara visited the small memorial in the base. Stones and carvings honored the fallen. She knelt beside them, whispering each name. "Your courage guides us," she said softly. "Your memory makes us strong. We fight not just for ourselves, but for you, and for every human who comes after." The humans understood that remembrance was not weakness. It was power. Every memory, every honor, every silent tribute added strength to their resolve. Mara smiled at the thought. Humans were small in number, but they carried courage, strategy, and unity within them. No enemy could break that. By sunrise, the humans were ready again. Mara led them to hidden observation points along the cliffs. The wind was calm, and the sun illuminated the valley below. Mara could see no alien ships, but she knew they would return. The humans had proven something important: strength was not only in numbers or weapons, but in courage, preparation, and cooperation. The survivors gathered near the cliff edge. Mara looked at each of them, seeing determination, hope, and courage in their eyes. "We have survived," she said. "We have fought, we have planned, and we have protected each other. No matter what comes next, humans endure. We will survive, we will rise, and we will honor every fallen soul with our courage." The wind carried her words across the cliffs. The humans felt a quiet pride, knowing that they had faced impossible odds and prevailed. Mara stayed at the ridge, watching the horizon, knowing that the future would bring more challenges, but also knowing that humans were prepared. The last stand had shown something powerful: humans could survive even against overwhelming force. They had turned fear into strategy, sorrow into courage, and chaos into unity. Mara felt hope rise inside her. The aliens would return, but humans were ready, stronger than ever in mind, heart, and spirit. As night fell, the survivors rested, keeping guards at key points. Mara stayed awake for a while, thinking of the journey that had brought them here. They had marched through forests, honored the fallen, and trained tirelessly. They had fought and won a battle that seemed impossible. Mara knew that humans were small, but their hearts, minds, and unity made them formidable. The stars shone above, and the wind whispered through the mountains. Mara felt the presence of the fallen, guiding her and the survivors. Humans had endured, and they would continue to endure. They would rise again and again, no matter the challenges ahead. The last stand was over, but the story of human courage was just beginning. Mara smiled, knowing that humans had proven their greatest strength, the ability to survive, fight, and rise together, stronger than any enemy could ever imagine. The valley below the mountain was quiet. Smoke still rose from the ruins of the colony, but the alien ships had not returned. Mara stood at the ridge, watching the horizon. Her heart was heavy with sorrow for the fallen, but it was also full of pride. Humans had survived everything the aliens had thrown at them. They had risen, fought, and endured. The survivors gathered near the base. Soldiers checked traps and supplies, farmers prepared food, and children ran quietly among the rocks. The air was tense, but lighter than before. They had won the last battle, and their spirits were stronger. Mara knew that even though the aliens would return someday, humans had discovered something the invaders could not understand: courage, unity, and the power of the mind and heart. Mara called the survivors to the clearing near the base. "We have survived the impossible," she said. "We have faced fear, fire, and loss. But we have done more than survive. We have learned, we have grown, and we have protected each other. Today, we honor those who gave everything for us." The humans listened quietly. Each knew the names of friends, neighbors, and soldiers who had fallen in the attacks. Their grief was deep, but Mara had taught them that remembrance was strength. Every action, every choice, every moment of courage carried the memory of the fallen forward. Mara knelt and began to scatter ashes in the wind, the remains of those who had been lost in the colony. The wind carried them across the valley, mixing with the smoke of burned fields and the fresh scent of the mountains. Each human took a small portion of the ashes and scattered them quietly, whispering the names of the fallen. "It is not only a goodbye," Mara said softly. "It is a promise. Their courage will guide us, their memory will protect us, and their strength will live in every human who survives." The humans worked together, quietly, respectfully. The act of mourning became an act of power. Every tear, every whispered name, every gesture of care strengthened their bonds. The fallen were gone, but they were not forgotten. They lived in the hearts of those who remained. As the sun rose higher, Mara led a small team down into the valley. The ruins of the colony were still smoldering, and Mara felt a pang of sorrow. Families had been torn apart, homes destroyed, and fields burned. But she also saw signs of life. Small plants pushed through the ashes, streams ran clear, and birds sang in the trees. Nature was resilient, just like humans. Mara and her team moved carefully, recovering what they could. Seeds were gathered, tools repaired, and shelters prepared for the future. The humans would rebuild. They had survived, and now they would reclaim what had been lost. Back at the mountain base, Mara gathered the survivors again. "We have survived battles, loss, and fear," she said. "But survival is not enough. We will rebuild. We will protect each other. We will make sure that every fallen human is remembered. That is our strength. That is our gift. That is why humans endure." The humans nodded, understanding the truth in her words. Even the youngest child, holding a small stone for the memorial, felt pride and courage. Humans were small, but their hearts were large. Humans were wounded, but their spirit was unbroken. Over the next weeks, the survivors worked tirelessly. They rebuilt shelters in safer locations, gathered food, and reinforced the mountain path. Soldiers trained new strategies, scouts explored safe routes, and everyone contributed. Mara led by example, moving among the humans, encouraging, guiding, and planning. Every human knew they were stronger together, and every action was a step toward a brighter future. One evening, Mara took a small group to the top of the highest ridge. From there, they could see the valley stretching below, the mountains surrounding them, and the distant horizon. Mara felt a quiet peace. The humans had survived, fought, and endured. They had honored their fallen, and they had prepared for the future. "We have risen from ashes," Mara said softly. "We have shown courage, intelligence, and unity. We have survived because we worked together, because we remembered, and because we never gave up. The aliens may return, but they cannot break what makes humans strong. That strength is not in weapons or numbers. It is in our hearts, our minds, and our courage. The humans watched the horizon in silence. The wind moved through the cliffs, carrying the memory of the fallen, the courage of the survivors, and the hope of the future. Mara smiled quietly, knowing that humans had discovered their greatest power, the ability to endure, rise, and protect each other, no matter the odds. As night fell, the survivors lit small fires. They sat in groups, sharing quiet stories, remembering the past, and planning for the days ahead. Mara walked among them, offering comfort and guidance. Every human was tired, but every human was proud. They had survived when survival seemed impossible. They had fought when the odds were against them. They had risen from the ashes stronger than before. The stars shone above the mountains, bright and steady. Mara looked up at them and thought of the humans who had been lost. Their memory was like the stars, small but brilliant, guiding the living with quiet light. Mara knew that as long as humans remembered, honored, and protected each other, they could survive anything. The next morning, Mara led the survivors down into the valley. They began to rebuild homes, plant fields, and restore water streams. Every human worked together, their efforts coordinated and precise. The aliens were no longer near, but the humans did not forget the danger. They had learned that preparation, courage, and unity were the keys to survival. Children ran along the paths, helping gather water and carrying small tools. Farmers planted seeds in rows, preparing for the future harvest. Soldiers patrolled carefully, but with confidence. Every human knew their role, and every role mattered. Mara watched with pride as humans rebuilt their lives with determination, intelligence, and courage. As the sun rose higher, Mara gathered the survivors one last time in the clearing. "We have endured," she said. "We have survived, we have fought, and we have risen. The fallen are not gone. Their courage is with us, guiding every step. Humans are small, but we are clever, brave, and united. We survive because we care, we plan, and we protect each other. That is our power. That is why humans endure." The humans stood quietly, feeling the truth in her words. They had faced fire, fear, and loss. They had risen from the ashes stronger, united, and wise. Mara knew that no matter what the future held, humans would continue to endure. They would survive, rebuild, and protect each other. The wind moved through the valley, carrying the echoes of the fallen, the courage of the survivors, and the hope of the future. Mara looked at her people, proud and calm. Humans had faced the impossible, and they had prevailed. They were small, but they were extraordinary. The sun climbed high, illuminating the valley and the mountains. Mara knew that the human story was just beginning. They had survived the aliens, honored the fallen, and rebuilt their strength. They had discovered the greatest human power, courage, unity, and the ability to rise from the ashes. And so, the humans stood together in the valley, ready for the future, carrying the memory of the fallen in their hearts, and the fire of hope in their souls. The story of human resilience, courage, and unity had reached a new dawn. Humans had endured, and they would continue to endure, forever rising, forever strong.